preference that many analysts have for assessing military capabilities quantitatively, either through force ratios or through the counting of stuff, people, units, and equipment. What does the opening of the Russia-Ukraine war tell us about those types of very traditional analyses?
Well, in terms of, actually, I'm interested to hear Gian on this, but I'll say, wasn't the quantitative stuff was also a little uneven. So they would say the Russian military has 1 million soldiers and X thousand tanks and 6 years of artillery ammunition. And yet actually on the border was a much smaller force. So that there was a distinct, so that the Russian military as an overall force was very large. But actually what they had on the border, you would say, was not an overwhelming force. And yet there was an awareness of what was on the border. A lot of the studies said, yes, we know they have 200,000 troops, X number of tanks. But there didn't seem to be, therefore, a reining down of what they could do. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I said, and Kim, I think that's why we probably came to the same conclusion. And again, I was just thinking about the invasion of Iraq and how many troops, and we came in with one singular line of effort, right, from south to north. I mean, originally, 4th Infantry Division was supposed to go through Turkey, but that didn't happen. And with the more significant force and with significant air power, yet the Russians have again aligned in this exterior line of attack with only 150,000 troops in these battalion tactical groups, which we knew even at the time, I think, was problematic in how they formed them. Part of them were conscript. And then I think the other thing that, at least for us when we did war games, and I think we knew this was always a potential problem for our analysis, was we never really drilled into Russian capability to sustain at the operational level. Yeah. And that really comes out in spades as well, especially, I think you bring that out in this report.
I would urge everybody to read Hugh Straughn's essay, because it's not just an introduction saying these guys are okay. Yeah. It is a kind of a meditation by an extraordinarily formidable military historian. One of the things he describes is what he calls military balance analysis. So the military balance is put out every year by the International Institute for Strategic Studies. It is a tome. It has extraordinarily detailed and I would say generally accurate inventories of everybody's equipment and number of people under arms and number of reservists and really every kind of quantitative indicator that you could possibly hope for. And I think that's part of the story here too, that the available sources, which are very straightforward, are the numbers. Yeah. And the stuff like corruption, well, that's squishy. Or I mean, how do you factor in that the Russians keep on saying they're going to roll out this brand new Armata tank, which is incredibly formidable, and it keeps on breaking down and they can't deploy it. Or the fact that discipline in the Russian army was and remains extraordinarily brutal, or they don't have a non-commissioned officer corps with everything that goes with that, and so on and so forth. And I think he's got a great point that there's a bit of the principle of the drunkard search. You end up looking for your keys under the street lamp, not because you lost your keys there, but because that's where the light is brightest. Right. And that's, I think, the very important point that Hugh Strachan makes.
Right. But he talks about the standard